Hey everybody, DJ here. Just want to talk about creating a community of practice within a seventh grade social studies classroom that is fully virtual. Many different ways, important things to do. The important thing to think about here is that I'm fully virtual now, but with the use of technology, how is that going to change when we go back to school? So we're going to start with ensuring an environment of trust. You want to first, I think there's two different ways to look at this. Obviously, you want to develop trust, both teacher-student relationship and student-to-student relationship. You want the entire community within the classroom to trust one another, have an open space, be able to say what they feel, and so on and so forth. So first of all, one way I'm going to accomplish this is at the beginning of the year when we do certain activities that involve students being more open and straightforward. I'm going to ask for students to partake in surveys. So these can be in the form of Google Forms or things of that nature. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to change my role from an instructor to more of a facilitator. So I want the conversation to be more on the students carrying it. One way I'm going to do this is through online discussion boards and collaboration boards where students can build off each other's ideas. And again, students are going to lead the lesson discussions. This helps with both the student-teacher relationship and the student-to-student relationship. They're going to gain a deeper understanding for their peers' feelings and standpoints and viewpoints on things. We're also going to have structured debates. These debates can be on via Zoom call. They could be discussion board posts, back and forth, so on and so forth. And the important thing to remember here is that respect is going to be key. Debating is one thing, but it has to be respectful in itself. And then I already had mentioned collaboration boards throughout all activities, just to get people's feelings, viewpoints. This helps where, if I'm one student and I view something very, very, one-sided or in my own, based on my own upbringing, and someone else views it very, very differently because of their upbringing, these ideas are being circulated throughout to show different viewpoints and give a fresh set of eyes to that specific topic or lesson. This is very important in social studies. You're going to accommodate learners across different cultures. So in history, obviously, you're going to have different inclusive texts and literatures throughout the curriculum, having a wide variety to maximize cross-curricular experiences. The experience I have in New York is different from an experience in Florida or an experience in California. An experience in the United States is different from an experience in Mexico or in Israel or in South Africa. So we want to open the students' eyes to that. And one way to do this is, being virtual, we have a vast amount of resources online that I could link in as part of their classroom, in the Google Classroom or in the Canvas based on which software I'm running. You obviously want to open up conversation and communication about ethnic backgrounds of both my students around the world. Just again, it's all about the fresh set of eyes. I want my students to view things differently than they might have in the past, just to have that open relationship within the classroom. Another way to accommodate these different cultures is to incorporate VR experiences. And I'm going to incorporate VR in many different ways. One way would be like museum tours, landmarks, temples, the seven wonders of the world, things like that, to experience things outside of the New York community or the Arizona community, to experience things outside of the United States that they may or may not have access to. We're going to understand the values of the learners. So many different ways that I can do that. First, we're going to want to incorporate their prior knowledge. And this is especially important when we're talking about technology. I'm going to do what's called tech tests. So in the beginning of the year, my tech tests are very similar to almost like a pre-test. So I'm going to incorporate it as part of my pre-test where students will do a series of different formatting options using different software on the computers. And this is going to gauge where their tech literacy is. And then we can build from that throughout the year. Yep. We're going to create a transformative experience. And by that, I think this is where it kind of links into being a 21st century student, right? We're going to practice civic duty 3 times a year. This year it's actually 4 times a year. But what we do is we actually send emails to local officials So we sent a letter to the White House discussing nativism. We send a letter to state congressman's office. We have been lucky enough to get emails back, but this is just to like make them an active part of the community. So there's a community within the classroom, and then there's a community like within the community upon which they live outside of school. And they need to be ready to be part of that community as well, because as teachers, like we're not only educating them on a subject, but we're educating them to be functioning adults in a society. And we're going to address the literacy. So I'm going to have supplemental materials in the beginning of the school year. When I create an assignment, what I will do is I will take screenshots of my walking them through the steps, and I'll have them in the directions. If necessary, I have made YouTube videos in the past to walk them through it, but most of the time, like I will share my screen when we're on a Zoom call, and I will walk them through the steps. Their directions will also have screenshots. So I take them through every step of the process to make sure that they're, fully gaining the access they need. And last, what we're going to do is we're going to attend to the core. Obviously, like we do have to worry about the subject matter at some point, so we're going to consider different approaches to that. I love web quests. This year I've started doing site searches where I'll create like a Google site, and I'll link everything right into that site, and then they go onto that site and they answer a series of questions in a Google form or in an email or in a discussion board post using the materials that I provided for them on the site search. It's very similar to a web quest, except I provide them with all of the sources on one thing. It's very engaging to the content. Again, VR, we talked about that. I think it connects them to the content, and it makes it, it brings it front and center for the students. Like it's right there in their face rather than like in a textbook or something LeBlanc is talking about. Like it's right there. They can see it, almost like they could touch it. We're going to embed videos with questions right along. I've been using Nearpod a lot, which allows me to incorporate like a video and then pause points throughout the video where I'll ask supplemental questions to gain an understanding of where the students are at, comprehension-wise. Next, we're going to try to develop a storyline. So in the past 2 years, what I've been doing is I've actually been making a digital class storyboard. So with each unit, it's almost like a presentation where they can see the transformation of history throughout there, and each one breaks it down, and it has like, so we go from colonization to Revolutionary War, and then as they get to the Revolutionary Era, it breaks it down into the 3 or 4 key topics, and then, so on and so forth. The new nation, constitution, so on and so forth. So they can see the transformation, they can link the themes together, and they can, start to visualize concepts, like why things happen. Web quests, I mentioned already. I do that a lot to link multiple time periods. So for 8th grade topics and 7th grade topics specifically, so I'm thinking like industrialization, where we talk about child labor, and we talk about tenements. Those might not necessarily be linked in a student's mind, but through a web quest, like they can connect those two topics together. They're going to develop, this is actually very, very fun. So I do student council, and one topic that I want to do in history class is I have like my history reporters, and what they do is there's 15 of them within my class, and they study recent news articles throughout a course of a week. At the end of the week, they'll get together. They will write their own like summarizations of the news. They will film, they will report, and they will create like a news channel. So if you've ever seen CNN 10 or CNN for Kids, they're 10-minute segments. These are usually about 15, but they incorporate all of the current news that are affecting students and anything that the students think other students and their peers should know. They report on them, they research them, they type them up, and they present them, and we create almost like a 15-minute news broadcast that is shown to the entire school on a weekly basis. So that's pretty fun. The kids really get behind that. And the last one is a weekly pen pal. This year, due to COVID, it's actually been bi-weekly to almost every 3rd week. But I do have, my brother-in-law teaches in England, and we've developed an email pen pal system to talk about specific topics or just like hobbies, and they email with a student in his class. So it opens them up to different cultures outside of the United States, and really helps to drive home that those like 21st century global citizenship skills that they need in order to be successful. So there's just a little bit about how I'm creating the community of practice. All right.